Today I'm going to be taking a look at one of the most requested shows for the channel, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and seeing, does it still hold up today? I've always had fond memories of Billy and Mandy. I never had a problem with it. If anything, I thought it was really good growing up, but I haven't watched it in a very long time. Do the jokes still hit? Are the stories well written? Did the characters work? We're going to be answering all those questions today by taking a look at 2 of the best episodes, 2 of the worst episodes, and 2 random episodes to see, was The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy actually a good show? And if you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe because I upload daily cartoon and movie content, and at 50k I'm going to be cosplaying as Pops from Regular Show and doing the Milk Challenge. You don't want to miss it. Now let's take a look at The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. And starting us off, as per usual, taking a look at one of the best episodes in the series with a 9.0 rating on IMDb, we have Keeper of the Reaper. And this episode, it kind of has a little bit of everything. The build-up, the climax, the comedy, all of it is very good. It is a really well-told story, and it's a bit of a special. It's 22 minutes long, and I am not complaining about that even remotely. The episode opens with everybody's favorite character in Billy and Mandy, Fred Burger, Fred Burger. He's just this little elephant guy, and he's kind of infectious with the way he views the world. He's just like, yes. He gets jury summons and he's like, yes. And then he gets there and he's taking a look at the paperwork and he's like, oh god, I love paperwork, oh god. Fred Burger, Fred Burger. I love him. He's great.
Have you been to jury duty before? This is my very first one. Gosh, I love paperwork, especially the part where I get to write my name.
He does get a bit annoying later on in the episode, but I think for the majority of the time he's on screen and when he's saying something, it's used to advance the plot or cut the tension, and overall, I really enjoy his character. I'm glad that they decided to put more of a focus onto him for this episode. Either way, he's having a great time, and they're told that they gotta do jury duty and they gotta be really impartial, and that's when Billy walks in and Mandy walks in. And I haven't watched Billy and Mandy in so unbelievably long that I forgot Billy is voiced by the same guy that voices Invader Zim. I think that's really wild. I don't know. I just can't stop seeing Invader Zim when I look at Billy, even though Billy is the precursor, but either way, that's still my usual thought there. And so they're like, okay, today, Billy, will you do the honors of making Mandy a lawful wedded wife? And Billy's like, yes! Yeah, baby! And then he's like, that's not what we're doing here. The custody of Grim, because apparently Billy's dad got a promotion at his job, he's getting a transfer, and so they're leaving, which means they have to have a custody battle over Grim. So that's pretty interesting. Billy's response to moving, though, was really funny because he just starts going around and just getting really sensual with the house. He's just like, oh, doorknob, I'm gonna miss you so much. You opened so many doors for me. Yeah, that's exactly what he does to the doorknob.
Bye, Mr. Doorknob. You've let me in and out through good times and bad.
And it's very weird to say the least. So they get in the courtroom. And they're just getting freaky with it. They're just arguing like why one or the other should get Grim, and Grim's like, do I get a say in this? Why don't I get a say in this? I like that running joke for Grim where he's just up above the ceiling, just in a cage. It's just really funny. And Billy's first witness that he calls to the stage is none other than Erwin. And Erwin's like, oh, what am I doing here? Because he looks at the monsters not as we see them, but genuinely terrifying. Every time it cuts to the monster with Erwin's vision, they actually look pretty terrifying.
Where am I?
I feel bad for the little guy, and they pretty much harass him, like, really bad. Like, very bad. They're just like, Erwin! Just poor guy. They get nowhere with Erwin's statements, so Mandy gets the opportunity to, call somebody else to the stand, and who does she call? None other than Jeff the Spider, Billy's son, and I feel like everybody's seen this clip at least once, but it's the clip where he's like, oh, I don't know, I love my dad, but he never pays child support, or comes to see me, or really does anything for me, to say the least. And Billy walks up and he starts poking him with a stick, and he's just like, "Why won't you love me, Dad? I'll be anything you want me to be." And Billy's like, "I want you to be dead."
Damn you good, you filthy bug!
Why won't you love me, Dad? I'll be anything you want me to be.
I want you to be dead!
The fuck, man, you didn't need to go that hardcore with it. That was a bit gruesome, or a bit grim. That was a knee slapper, huh? Yeah, I get you out of your chair and pressing that subscribe button to help me fulfill my dreams because it's so hilarious. I hope so. Either way, they continue on, looking at my notes here because this was a very long episode. There was a lot to do. Oh yeah, there's a fish from a previous episode. I have like a faint memory of this fish, but I don't know. But either way, the fish has like major PTSD, like major PTSD. He's like, I still think about Billy every night. Oh God, he made me swim. Oh,
horrible things. I don't want to talk about it.
he's just struggling immensely. I thought that was decently funny. That was pretty good. And so then Mandy keeps bringing more and more pets to just say that, Billy just can't take care of Grim because he can't take care of a pet. And there's this scene where they're talking about this little hat because Billy had a dog with a hat, and she's holding up the hat, and Fred Burger's all like,
Judge, can I please have that hat, please? I really need that hat. Can I have it? Please?
and the judge is like, shut up, and he's like, Judge, shut up, Judge, please. And he gets the hat, so I was happy for him. I like Fredberger. And then Billy decides to call up his witnesses, and he starts with Mandy's own parents, which was so cold, especially with their reactions to Mandy. To sum that up for you, it's basically like, well, I'm afraid I've lived a bad life because of Mandy, and I don't know what to do. She just torments me here, torments me there. She was raised by wolves, Dutch. That's basically how they talk about Mandy. I enjoyed that. I thought it was funny. And a bunch of other people just say that Mandy is an awful, horrible person. We're getting some good stuff out of that. Even Scooby-Doo comes to the stand, and he's like, Mandy made fun of the way I walked.
She made fun of the way I walk. I mean, look at me. I'm a stinking dog.
I don't know. There's so much going on in this episode, but it's all so good. Oh, God. Fred really wants nachos. At one point, he's like,
Hey, Judge, I'm not really seeing any nachos. Do we have some nachos around these parts for me?
and the judge is like, no, there's no nachos.
What about hot dogs? Do we have hot dogs?
And then all of a sudden he does have nachos. But those nachos, they come back with a vengeance and they make him have to shit. Not before we get to hear a just beautiful song about, I want to be the keeper of the reaper. Just this singing. I enjoyed the song a lot. We got a lot of really cool visuals for the song. It was decent. I liked it. There's a scene where Billy's all like, you're the picnic in my bear. Please let me be the keeper of the reaper. And we get to see Yogi Bear. It's already peak if you get to see Yogi Bear. What do you think, Boo Boo? Oh, what do you think, Boo Boo, about Grim and Mandy? Ho. I don't know. I haven't seen Yogi Bear in a very long time, so I was overjoyed to see Yogi Bear.
Grim's the picnic in my bear!
Grim is a cushion in my chair.
Either way, the song was a lot of fun. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that. And so they decide that they have to come to a vote. And Fred is all like,
I gotta go take a shit, Mr. Judge, and I really can't contain myself.
and so he leaves, and they actually get a vote where it's 5-6 in Mandy's favor, but this random, like, little monster dude just eats the 6th vote. He just swallows that guy whole.
3, 4, 5, 6. Good. It looks like we have a...
He's gone. No more of that guy. So, yeah, he was pretty useless after that. Now it's 5-5, and it's all up to Fredberger to decide, and he just starts going,
Yes.
and that makes the judge realize that he can't separate Billy and Mandy. So he puts Billy and his family on house arrest. They literally can't leave anything. I feel really bad for Billy's parents, to say the least. They just looked absolutely traumatized from this entire scenario. But either way, Ignoring the trauma and the never-ending family torture for Billy's parents, Billy, Mandy, and Grim stay one big, happily family with friends and silly adventures on the horizon. This episode was a lot of fun. Again, it was 22 minutes, so that's obviously going to amplify it and make it even better, especially when you have a good writing team for a show. And they told so many different jokes that I was laughing pretty much this entire episode, but even the moments where they weren't telling jokes, I was entertained the entire time. Obviously, there was probably a couple of things that I missed. I mean, I had to just write a giant bullet list of things because there were so many different just jokes here and there that were just so great that I had to write down as much as I could, but I missed some stuff. This episode is great and I would definitely recommend checking it out. If I was to rate Keeper of the Reaper from 1 to 10, I would probably give this episode a 10 out of 10. I had so much fun watching this. Billy and Mandy are just infectious as characters.
Fred Burger was really fun. I don't know, he didn't add like that much to the episode, but he did play a pivotal role, and he was just kind of there for random comedy purposes. Oh boy, I'm Fred Burger.
He was alright, so yeah, pretty good episode. I really liked it. 10 out of 10 for me.
I'm a dirty boy.
Taking a look at one of the worst episodes in the series with a 6.6 on IMDb, Whatever Happened to Billy What's-His-Name. And the beginning of this episode is really wonky, with Mandy just giving Billy the good old-fashioned slave treatment, genuinely forcing Billy to go and do every single thing possible for her, initially starting with, "Hey Billy, go get me a glass of water, you dirty nasty boy, go do it," and then she sees that it has a speck on it, and so Billy is like, "I'll give it the old spit and shine," and then he just spits all over Grim, and it's really disgusting.
Fine.
Maybe that's why it's the lowest rated episode, because within the first 20 seconds, I'm just like, yeah, that's basically how it makes you feel, but, you know, it's not that bad. And eventually Mandy does say thank you, which causes Billy to have a spaz attack saying that, how dare you, I'm never talking to you ever again. And so we cut to the next day, and Billy is all like, "Hey, Mandy! Hi, Mandy!" And Mandy is instead giving Billy the silent treatment, which leads to Mandy punching him in the face and saying that she's getting a Billy replacement. Oh, Lord! And, the majority of these scenes were just okay. The main one that I liked was Erwin attempting to be the replacement, where he's like, "Oh, please, baby goddess Mandy, I would do anything to be by your side, please." And then Grim just snaps his fingers and he gets just dragged out into the abyss by a bunch of monsters.
Confident spot by your side!
I was like, no, Erwin, no. But it was so unbelievably funny. We get a lot of people auditioning for this, but one of them that was the weirdest was Billy's dad. That made me cringe a little bit. Why does he want to hang out with a young woman? That was just weird. But either way, eventually they land on this guy, Bobby, who basically looks just like Billy, but debatably even more stupid. And for just the next, 6 minutes, we just get a bunch of nonsense with Billy stalking them, but at the same time, Bobby just keeps going like, just because he's maniacally trying to take over all of Billy's life. And honestly, I found it to be uninteresting. It kind of felt like this episode really never got off of its feet and started running. It felt like there were a lot of opportunities for them to switch it up and progress the plot, get to the climax, but it never really felt that way. Genuinely, the end of this episode, the big climax moment, Billy versus Bobby, doesn't happen until 9 minutes and 30 seconds in. And 11-minute episodes, that's kind of late for that to start happening. Most shows, when you want to wrap up an episode, it'll start around the 7-minute mark, and then it'll slowly build up to that final major moment that makes you go, ah, yeah, that was good. And this just didn't really have that. Because it's just Bobby standing on Billy's bed and he's saying, "I'm gonna get ya. I'm gonna get you tomorrow morning." And Billy's like, "Okay." And they wake up the next day and Billy just in his mom's voice, is all like, "Come and get your pancakes!" And Bobby, he runs for it, and he sees a giant demonic portal, and he's like, "Well, there's nothing here except this portal right here." And Billy just shoves him into the demonic portal, and that's the end of Bobby.
Underworld vortex to another dimension.
And then Mandy stops being mad at Billy and is like, "Billy, go get me a sandwich." And that's pretty much the end of it. Kinda wonky, but it was okay, to say the least. It wasn't doing anything that awful. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid 6 out of 10. There was nothing too bad about the episode, it just genuinely felt like it never crossed the threshold to that next level to deliver something good. It felt like it had the right idea, which was Billy versus Bobby. It could have been done really cool, but instead it was just over in about 20 seconds, and it kind of felt unresolved in a way. I don't know. There was just a huge chunk of it missing. I wouldn't say that any of it is bad. It's still very entertaining, but it genuinely felt like there should have been something more going on, or a bigger climax to overall make the episode a little bit better. That's the only thing holding it back, but a 6 out of 10 isn't bad. I wouldn't call it a bad episode by any means. It just definitely wouldn't be anywhere near my favorites, and I probably wouldn't want to rewatch this one. Taking a look at another one of the best episodes in the series with a 8.3 on IMDb, we have Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween. A Halloween special, how fitting for the time of the year, and this episode is just a straight up banger. It doesn't have that many jokes, but it just didn't need them. It was just an incredible story, 22 minutes of peak fiction. I loved it so much. So it opens with Billy just being terrified of just everything in life, and Mandy knocks on the door and she's dressed as Hamlet, and interesting costume to say the least, but maybe it was just so she could carry Grim as a skull around. To be or not to be? That is the question. And so Billy dresses up as Grim, carrying Grim's scythe, which is going to spell disaster later on. They're going to go and get Erwin, and Erwin is kind of the main driving force of comedy in this episode. Everything else is just telling a good story, good villain, good action, all that good stuff. But then there's Erwin. And let me tell you about Erwin and his first Halloween costume. They get to his house, he opens the door, and he's just got a beautiful blonde wig. He's wearing a strapping, sexy dress, and he's like, "Oh, Mandy, yes, you want a kiss, baby? Do I look scary for you, baby?"
Do you like my costume?
And Mandy's like, "No, Erwin. No, you're disgusting," punches him in the face. So Erwin goes upstairs and ominously says, "If it's scary baby wants, it's scary baby you'll get." So we'll see Erwin later on, and that is when Billy and Mandy, they go and they steal some candy from an old lady. That scene was a lot of fun. They go to a graveyard, they're eating the candy, and that is when Grim tells them about the origin of tricking people on Halloween. The story of this guy Jack, who is just tricking people so much, and the story was kind of whatever. I kind of felt like they dragged it on longer than it needed to, but either way, I'm all for exposition, and it didn't take away from the episode. It was just a long time. So Jack kept tricking people, and eventually the townspeople got sick of it, so they tricked the queen into sending an executioner who murdered Jack. Jack, upon finding out that he's murdered, he's like, "Ha ha ha, that's funny, but you can't stop me, Mr. Grim Reaper," and he manages to steal Grim's scythe, so they cut a deal where Jack was granted eternal life, and in exchange, Grim cut his head off.
Not be showing his face around town again, ever.
You cut his head off?
Jack did not want this, by the way, so he's very distraught, and just throughout the years he's been living in the same house for forever, just except now he has a pumpkin head known as Jack-o'-lantern. The origin of the Jack-o'-lantern? Oh no, bro. But I was all for it. I liked it, so yeah, cool villain setup. I'm having a decent time. And then we get another Erwin moment, which was so funny, because he just shows up and he's like, "Am I scary for you now, baby? I'm a red Indonesian sea turtle."
Not just any turtle. I'm a female Indonesian redback sea turtle. These are my eggs. Pretty creepy, eh, Mandy?
What? Why would you be that, of all things? Mandy is not very impressed, to say the least. So they decide to split up to go and do a little bit more trick-or-treating. How exciting. Billy goes to a higher part of town, and he sees a house up upon a hill, and it's Jack's house. He goes up there, Jack gives him a good old-fashioned trick, a skunk in his bag.
He likes me.
And Jack's like, I don't got time for this, boy. I don't got any time for this. Until Billy says that he has the real scythe. Jack tricks Billy into getting that scythe. Now Jack has it, and he releases a bunch of pumpkin monsters, all these monsters from the depths of hell or wherever, onto the world. So cool. So now, him and Jack, they go and they kidnap, Grim, taking him back to like this wasteland area where Jack is going to cut off Grim's head. Okay, the tension is there, and Mandy is making her plot to save the world. I'm all for it. I'm having fun. I'm having a great time, and Mandy's entire plan is actually really cool, where she just starts setting up a bunch of different tricks, all to trick Jack into, you know, not brutally murdering Grim. And so that is when Erwin shows up in yet another Halloween costume, looking like the executioner that killed Jack initially. And honestly, because I just didn't really remember this, I was like, how is this guy here? How is that possible? He's like, do I look scary for you now, baby? Do I look scary? And then he just trips and it's revealed to be Erwin, and Erwin just starts getting mercilessly beaten. Genuinely, I kind of felt bad for him. This is like pure immense torture for Erwin. He trips, he falls on a whoopee cushion, he gets a beehive to fall out of a tree, lands in his mouth, starts stinging him, he runs over to drink some milk, and it's full of hot sauce. And it's all part of Mandy's plan, by the way, and all of Jack's army, they start laughing so unbelievably much because it's just so funny that they start literally laughing themselves to death and exploding. Crazy! But yeah, Erwin is just suffering repeatedly, and Jack finds it extremely funny as well. We get Mandy just with the scythe just going to town, destroying all the pumpkins left and right, until eventually Jack is he's just like, what are you gonna do to me? What are you gonna do to me? I have eternal life. And then Grim just takes it away. Cool. All right. And then Jack goes to hell, and that's the end of the episode. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed all the stuff with Erwin. That was probably my favorite parts of the episode. Even though he gets tortured at the end, I'm not usually a big fan of torture, but when, you know, Erwin's just getting stung by bees and electrocuted by eels, and he's just like, oh god, guys, oh god, help me. It's kind of funny. I can't even lie. I can't deny Jack was a really cool villain for this episode. I wasn't really into him when he was in his human form, but I can't deny the voice acting, his like presence as a pumpkin, him reigniting armies of the dead. That was really cool. He lived up to the hype and he was a cool villain for that episode. I really just liked the story. It was told really well, progressed really well. Overall, a very, very good episode. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. The only part of the episode that I thought was lacking in any way was Jack's backstory. I felt like it went on for way too long. They kind of got the point across within the first 10 seconds, and then they just needed to switch to him getting executed, and it would have flowed a lot better, and we could have had more time for maybe the final battle against all the pumpkins. That could have been cool, but I don't know. That scene just went on for way too long for me, and it just kind of took me out of it a little bit. I was like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know. But overall, really good episode. A 9 out of 10 is fantastic. So yeah, I'm very impressed. Taking a look at another one of the worst episodes with a 6.6 on IMDb, we have Just the Two of Us. And oh my god, this episode is actually abysmal. It is so unbelievably boring. None of the jokes land. None of the characters work in this episode. It just sucks. It's so boring. It's awful. I hate it. So this episode is about this bully kid. I honestly already forgot his name. I don't even really care about his name, but he has a bunch of pimples all over his face, like covered in pimples. So he goes and he sees this fortune teller lady, and her entire joke is just, I ate the chili hot dog, and then she just rips ass over and over and over again.
Are you ready for my wonders? was the hot dog egg.
That's it. That's her entire joke. Farting. And it sucks. For a team of writers who can make peak storytelling and actually usually tell really good jokes, this sucked. This was so bad to sit through. And that takes up the first 4 minutes of him going to the fortune teller lady to try to find a way to get rid of its pimples. Oh boy. And he finds out that he needs to get bones, so he wants to hang out with Billy and Grim. And you would think that the episode gets better there, but it doesn't. It doesn't get better at all. The physical comedy sucks. They go to the roller skate rink. Doesn't do anything there except he sucks at roller skating. Woo, yippee. Oh, that was so funny. They go to a costume store and he has to wear a cow costume. Oh my god! The bully's in a cow costume. That's so fucking funny. No, it's not. It's still pretty awful. Yay. And then they go home and he has to rub Grim's feet, and Billy is making him food at the same time, so he tweaks out and tries to steal Grim's bones, and then his bones fall into a pot. He jumps into the pot, and then his skin is so silky smooth, but oh my god, he doesn't have a mouth anymore. Wow. This pains me to say this, but I'm going to give this episode a 1 out of 10. There was nothing redeemable about this shit slop waste of 11 minutes. Genuinely, there was not a single frame in this episode that I thought was enjoyable. It was a waste of time in every single way. And that's really unfortunate. Maybe I'm hating on it a little bit more because I've been having so much fun with every single episode that I've watched thus far, and going to this, it genuinely feels like watching Breaking Bad, and then all of a sudden, you have to watch Cocomelon for 12 hours straight with your eyes zipped up like this, and you just have to sit there and just be all like, Cocomelon. No, it was awful. That's what this episode felt like. It was just abysmal. 1 out of 10. I'm never watching this episode ever again. Heading over to the random category with a 7.8 on IMDb, we have Dum Dums and Dragons. And this episode's opening is just so wild, with Grim just getting beaten to a bloody pulp by this ginger with an eye patch.
This is for not returning my lawnmower.
Did not expect it to open that way, but I was all for it. For, somebody being the Grim Reaper, Grim is very, prone to getting his ass beat or his scythe taken. I always thought that was a little bit weird about this show. You would think an all-powerful being like that would be able to, put up his dukes, do something with him, but he's just not able to. He gets his ass beat, and this leads Billy to question who is a hero and what does it mean to be a hero. So Grim tells him that the best way to be a hero back in the olden days was to fight a dragon. So Billy's like, I want to fight a dragon. I want to fight a dragon. And so Grim complies with this. They go to the medieval ages, and Billy trains with the same guy, but like maybe his ancestor or something, the same guy that beat Grim's ass. He trains with him for a while, and that part of the episode was decent to say the least. It was definitely okay. It was entertaining nonetheless. It wasn't doing anything too crazy for me. And eventually, he has to go and stake out the dragon that he has to fight. He goes there, and the dragon is just addicted to working out. He's got his pre-workout, his protein shakes. He is clearly not natty, okay? 100% not natty dragon, I can tell you that much. He is roided up, to say the least.
I like to work out. It keeps my mind sharp and focused. You like shakes? I like shakes. Hey, you want to try one of my health shakes?
But Billy sees this guy who's just pumping iron all the time, and he's like, you're not living your life. So he takes the dragon out for a day on the town to just grub out, eat lots of food, go on roller coasters, party with the baddies, just doing all that stuff. And then he leaves because he's like, I'm gonna slay you tomorrow, Mr. Dragon. I'm gonna slay you up real good. Oh, yes. And so the day comes, the day of the slaying. He's very excited to slay it up, and he sees his dragon. He runs up, kicks him in the face, and then he cannot do it. So his trainer decides he has to do it himself. They throw Billy the scythe, and Billy just sends him to another dimension. It's pretty much the entire episode. This one was okay for the most part. There were certain things that I liked about it. There were certain parts of the episode that were a little bit slow. The main thing that I really enjoyed about the episode was Billy's time spent with the dragon. I thought that's where the episode really shined. Everything else was just kind of whatever, I guess. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid 7. I feel like a 7's good for it. There's nothing bad about this episode. It just kind of just felt like it was going through the motions a little bit, but it was still very entertaining. It's an episode that I would gladly rewatch. I had a lot of fun, so a 7 out of 10 is a great option for it. And the final episode that I'm going to be taking a look at with a 7.8 on IMDb is Fear and Loathing in Ennsville. And this episode opens with one of the most real sentences I've ever heard, with Grimm stating, "Oh, I'll be back in a while, guys. Off to bother some old people." Yeah. Old people suck. If you ever work in a situation where you have to tend to the elderly in any way, they don't get more wise, they don't get more kind, they don't get more full of life. They're sick of being here and they hate you for it. That's just my experience. I worked at a diner. It was awful. Old people are just hell spawn. Once you get past, like, the age of 80, you just hate everyone around you. So Grimm saying that, it just touched a little place in my heart. He goes to this old folks' home where he meets up with Dracula, and Dracula's just a very spiteful old man who wants nothing to do with Grimm. But because Grimm gets a little bit sad, he decides that Grimm can go with him to the early bird special at a restaurant. That's all he really seems to care about. He's like, "Oh, baby, I need that early bird special, Grimm. Oh, yeah, I need it real bad." And so they start heading there. He says he could drive, but he immediately crashes it in a ditch. Tragic. And then they start walking in the desert, and we get one of the weirdest songs that I've ever heard for a show. It's just, "They were walking in the blistering winds, but the blistering winds, they felt like an angry woman."
It's a thick, hot dread, and the sun burned their hearts like an angry woman.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's just a bunch of sentences, and they all end with, "and it felt like an angry woman." I don't know who wrote that one, but that's pretty wild. I can't even lie. They eventually get picked up by this weird trucker guy who has a weird obsession with fingernails. That was, interesting to say the least. They were able to calm him down by playing Connect 4 after he got a little bit angry, and then he also crashes the truck. So guess what we got part 2 of? The scorpions, they tasted like an angry woman.
They tried to eat a cactus like an angry woman.
Yeah, very interesting song. They're eating baby scorpions, and that's when the scorpion's mom shows up and just jabs Dracula in the eye because she's like, "My babies! No!" And she starts just jabbing Grimm over and over and over again. Honestly, a pretty gruesome scene.
Me, dang it!
And so Grimm is just begging Dracula to suck the poison out, and Dracula's like, "No, baby, I don't do that. I scrape and lick. I don't suck. I scrape and lick." Yeah, that goes on for a while, and then he starts having, like, this trippy nightmare, Grimm does, because he's dying. And he's very mad at Dracula because Dracula wouldn't suck him, which is, you know, who doesn't want to get sucked, right? You just gotta suck. And so Grimm decides to go on his own way, leaving Dracula, and Grimm meets up with, like, this Star Wars Tatooine sand guy. And so Grimm meets up with, like, this Star Wars Tatooine sand guy, and he's just chatting with him, and he finds out that Dracula did in fact give him the good suck, the goodest suck he ever had. And so he decides to go back and find Dracula. He finds him at the Early Bird restaurant. They have a meal. And he's like, "Oh, Dracula, you know, man, I really like you, man. I respect you. I like you." And it turns out that Dracula sticks him with the bill and runs away, so Grimm is left distraught. And that's the episode. Honestly, pretty solid. I had a lot of fun with it. There were a lot of different things going on, but for the most part, it was really entertaining. A couple of jokes got me to laugh. Dracula as a character was kind of really annoying, but I feel like that's the point. He was like stereotypical old person, and that just struck a chord with me. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid, 8 out of 10. I thought it was a lot of fun. I don't think there was anything bad about this episode. I just think it was good fun, good laughs, a good journey, you know? It just was fun, kind of like an angry woman. Yeah, it was decent. So is the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy actually good? Is that even a question? Yes, the show is phenomenal. It's one of the best shows from the 2000s. It's just so good. The characters work so well. Impeccable voice acting, impeccable concept. It's just all so good. Except for that Puss episode. I don't know what the fuck was going on with that shit. Did not like that even remotely. That was abysmal. I never want to see anything like that ever again. So unbelievably boring. But everything else, that episode isn't going to speak for the entire show. There's plenty of episodes that I guarantee you are miles better than that. It's got great comedy, great story, just everything you could possibly need with a grim adventure. I love it. It's a phenomenal show. It was great revisiting it, and I hope to make some more videos about it someday. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I got lots of good videos on the way. We're still gonna get Monster House, Invader Zim, a lot of shows. I got a lot of things planned, so you don't want to miss it. So make sure you're liking and subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.